I'm fresh off of watching Terminator 2 in 70mm at the Aero Theatre in Santa Monica. And if you haven't seen it in 70mm, whoo boy, it looks good. Now, I've seen Terminator and Terminator 2 in theaters before, but not like this. And right afterwards, I went home and I watched Terminator in 4K Blu-ray. And you know what? I'd seen both of these films at least 10 times each, but I'd never sat there and watched them back to back. And doing so, man, the differences between the two are striking. These are two very different films. Terminator 1 is a straight up horror slasher film, and Terminator 2 ramps everything up and goes straight action. And James Cameron had a knack of taking a horror film and turning it into an action film, because he did the same thing by turning Alien from a horror film into Aliens, which was an action film. Now, I would have assumed everyone's seen Terminator 2. But in that theater, when they asked who was watching it for the first time, a lot of hands went up. My mind was blown. So if you haven't seen these films, please watch them and then come back to this video. There will be spoilers. And also, it's hot as hell. I'm fat, sweating. I had a couple drinky poos. So this video might go off the rails. Just bear with me. When people talk about the Terminator franchise, I would think they mostly classify it as action sci-fi films. But the first one in 1984 was completely different. It is a horror film. It is a slasher film. It's a unstoppable killing machine stalking this woman and never stopping, just always coming after her, trying to kill her. It's dark, it's brooding, it's menacing. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the T-800 is insanely scary because, as Reese says, he will never stop until you are dead. This is exactly how Jason and Michael Myers and all these horror icons function. They stalk, they're slow moving, they're menacing, and they will never stop. Terminator 1 is so much darker and more sinister. The music is way darker and the synth score is like a straight up horror film. Schwarzenegger barely talks in it. He never smiles. There's no humor or comedy in it. The kills are more brutal. When he first kills the first Sarah Connor in her home, and then when he kills her roommate, that is such a scary, dark scene. Now imagine you're in Sarah's shoes. You're 18 or 19 years old, and then on the news you see that someone is wiping out all the Sarah Connors in the phone book, and your name is next. And then you see this dude take tons of bullets, shotgun blast to the chest, and he gets up and he's running right after you. He's killing people with no abandon. That would be terrifying. If you follow my channel and you saw some of my other videos, you will know that one of my first experiences with being scared from a film is with Terminator, because I was a young kid when I saw this film. And towards the end, when the skin melts off and all we see is the metal skeleton, and he's coming at them at the end, that terrified me as a kid. I remember going to sleep and I would put the cover like over my head, and like my eyes would be out and looking at the door in the hallway, and every little sound sounded like the steel steps of the Terminator coming to get me. And I was freaking terrified of that film at the time because it was scary. And I mean, come on, everything's at night. He's stalking them at night. She's going to Tech Noir. The police station is at night. Their escape from there, their night in the motel, then the finale, all of it's at night because everybody knows in the dark is scarier. And if you look at the kills, a lot of innocents are killed in this film, way more than in Terminator 2. And they're done in a more graphic, horrific manner than in T2, where they're kind of played for laughs almost. And here, I'm not laughing, and if you are, you're a sick puppy. And then came Terminator 2. Now, the problem I have with most sequels is they just take the idea from the first one and try to make everything bigger, and in doing so, they usually fail. James Cameron brilliantly flipped the two films. He took the evil, scary Terminator from 1 and made it honorable, funny, and heroic in Terminator 2. Now, I don't know if Arnold just didn't want to play a villain again because it affected his image in Hollywood, or James Cameron was just like, we can't do the same thing again. But the second one just changed everything. The horror vibes are gone, even from the opening beats where Arnold comes in from the future. He lands, he's naked, and he walks into the bar and he's naked and he needs the clothes from the bikers. And you see the reactions from the people and the waitresses in there. It's funny already, right? Even if you have no idea going into these films what's going to happen, you can kind of tell that this Terminator, this thing, isn't going to be evil and dark like the first one was, right? And the second one introduces the T-1000, which I still think is the greatest villain in the Terminator franchise. I think the T-1000 is one of the strongest Terminators ever seen. And I think Robert Patrick does an amazing job. He's not nearly as big or imposing as Arnold. And yet when he's holding his own and he's doing his fights against Arnold, it's totally believable. It's all in the face. It's all in the facial expressions. When he pulls the gun and he shoots, his eyes never blink. And he had to practice that to make sure that he never blinked for that, which makes sense because as a human, the flash and everything going on, you would probably blink, but a machine wouldn't. Seeing his face with his eyes wide open as he's pulling the trigger is scary, but really cool. Terminator 2 said goodbye to all the horror elements. There's a lot of scenes that happen during the day. We talking about the chase in the LA River with the trucks and the motorcycles, which is one of the greatest action sequences of all time. And a lot of what happens between John and the Terminator is funny and silly at the beginning. And as they're learning to be more like friends versus just a protector, some of the scenes are really funny. The high five, when he's teaching him how to talk, that kind of stuff. Hilarious, by the way. Introducing him as a protector and the T-1000 as a much more enhanced and upgraded version of a Terminator, it made the whole film more exciting and believable, because if the T-800 failed in the first time, why would they do it again, right? They're going to amp it up. I'll go on record and I'll say this, and it might be a hot take for some of you, but I don't think it's going to be that much. Terminator 2 is the greatest action film of all time, bar none. Watching it in theaters, and this is a film that came out in 1991, it still looked good. The special effects look good. The action sequences and set pieces were amazing. When he's shooting out of Cyberdyne at the end and he's shooting all the cars and blowing things up, it still looked good. The helicopter chase and the guy going under the bridge, which was really risky in real life, like that stuff looks amazing because yes, there was CGI used already in this film, but it was done in a really good way, in a clever way, and it didn't dominate the picture. And that's what made this film really good. Amped everything up from the first one, changed the tone completely, and gave us a memorable sequel. And it makes sense that Terminator 2 was so good because James Cameron had a lot of practice of taking a horror sci-fi film and turning it into a straight up action film, because he did it himself earlier in 1986 with Aliens. Now, if you've seen Alien, the original 1979 film by Ridley Scott, it's a straight up horror film, right? There's a group of people trapped in this enclosed spaceship or space, whatever, chased by this unstoppable killing machine. And then the second one, they introduced a Marine crew, a bunch of guns, action sequences, action set pieces, some comedy. Are you seeing some of the similarities between the two? James Cameron took a horror film, turned it into a sci-fi film with some humor in it. Same thing as he turned his first Terminator film into T2, horror action. So if this seems a little weird, go watch Alien and watch Aliens. Go watch Terminator and watch Terminator 2. And you'll see the similarities of how the first films are both sci-fi slasher horror films, and the second films kind of abandon that and go straight to action. And that's the difference between a really good director like James Cameron and probably 80 or 90% of the rest of Hollywood directors. But tell me, do you like Terminator 1 or Terminator 2 more? I know there's people on both sides of the fence here. It's hard for me to choose, even though I think I lean slightly towards Terminator 2 because I don't think Terminator is the greatest slasher horror film of all time, but I do think Terminator 2 is the greatest action film of all time. So it kind of bumps itself up over Terminator 1 in my opinion. I just wanted to sit down, talk about some of my favorite films of all time with you all, and make an awesome video. I hope you like this one. I hope you comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Keep coming back. I'm going to do these every week. And until next time, stop scrolling, start watching.